All right, we're here at Cedar Creek Motorsports, and we're picking up a four-wheeler. I guess they couldn't fix it or didn't want to because it would cost them too much. So we're picking it up and we're gonna try to see what we can do with it. All right, this one's a very interesting one. This is a 2013 Polaris Sportsman EFI EPS. So it's got the power steering and the fuel injection. So it's a pretty nice model. These typically go for like $5,000 in my area. So the story on this one is that the seller said his dad used to plow with this machine back in the day. I guess it sat 7 years outside. That's why it's all rusty. You can see the rust forming everywhere on the frame. I'm guessing he used salt for plowing, which increased the rust on this machine. But anyway, his dad had some health issues. He ended up not plowing with it anymore. It sat, and the son took it to the dealership to get fixed. The dealership took one look at it and said, you'll have way more money into fixing this than what it's worth. So take your loss on it, sell it for parts, get rid of it, and hope you get something for it. So they gave him a diagnostic sheet with everything they did to it, which wasn't much, but yeah, they basically said, you know, take your loss on it. So the seller posted this thing for $1,500 on Facebook, and I offered 12. He said, come get it. So I went to the dealership and picked this thing up for $1,200. I got there, and yeah, this thing is rougher than I thought. Take a closer look. You can see all the rust forming on it. I guess the dealership said there's a lot of stuff wrong. Some of the plastics are broken. The seat's not too bad, but it doesn't latch on. Looks like a new seat cover on there. All the plastics were off from the dealership diagnosing it. I guess the gauge doesn't work. Tires are pretty down there on tread, but you can see all the rust forming, all the paint's chipping off. The dealership said they looked into the electronics, could not get it to work, and that's pretty much as they did. The brakes are locked up, so it's really hard to roll. Everything's locked up on it. Everything's rusty. It is very rough. But today, we're going to try to get this thing running and driving and try to prove the dealership wrong. That's the goal. So without further ado, let's get this thing off the trailer if we can. It barely moves. And we'll start working on this thing. I'm excited to tear into it. I mean, we got it for $1,200. Worst case scenario, we part it out if we can't get it running, but we'll give it our best shot and see what happens. As you can see, battery is dead. Nothing lights up, so I think first thing we're gonna do is hook up a jumper to it and see what pops up on the dash here. See if there's any codes and kind of go from there. All right, so this thing is pretty tough to shift to. I think that's neutral right there. Take the parking brake off. Is it gonna roll? You can see how hard that is to roll. Yeah. Sometimes to get these stuck brakes free, you can use like a rubber mallet, hit the caliper. It's the front or the rear. Yeah, it's still pretty stuck. Almost forgot the power steering's locked up, so we can't steer it at all. So that's a problem. We might have to jack up the front tires and get some wheels underneath here to move it into the garage. What a pain. But I'm guessing the gears and the power steering are locked up possibly. I don't know. have I gotten myself into? Oh boy, what a pain in the butt. Alright, so this rack comes off. This was off when I bought it. And you can see all the wirings down there. So that comes off. Check the coolant right away, see if there's any in there. Alright, that's topped off. Well, that's a good sign. Alright, that plastic off. Alright, so looks like a missing plug there. See where that goes to. That goes down to the plow. So I'm guessing this plugged in somewhere by the battery or up here to control the plow. I'm guessing it was like a handle for the plow that it switched into, that I plugged into. So I don't think we need that. Push that off to the side. Got our fuse box here. Take a look at that. Everything's just held on by zip ties. Nice. Looks like they put new fuses in. You can see the old one sitting there. Battery's dead, but that's hooked up. Alright. So the dealership gave me the paperwork for it. So let's kind of go through that. So the total came to $207.61 is what the guy owed. It says customer states unit will not power up, battery is fully charged, will only show time on cluster. It says wiring harness is corroded, LH left hand handlebar switch is bad, ignition switch is bad, multiple codes, EPS unit hooked up, can't steer, brakes locked up, gear shifter hard to move and gear position doesn't show on display, frame very rusty, tires on right hand side are on backwards and all four are low on tread, winch cable broken, left rear CV boot, front storage cover broken. So left rear CV boot, left rear CV boot. So one of these boots must be, oh, right here. I think that's just paint though. They probably thought it was the boot. Yeah. So it looks like this thing's gonna take a miracle to get this thing running today. But that's everything that was wrong. That's what the dealership found. So for $207, you found that those were all the problems. And that's as far as I dug into this thing. Very interesting. So let's see if there's any fuel in it. There's some gas in there. Take a peek at the oil. I'm hoping the engine's fine. And that electric start works. There's oil in it. Looks really clear. Smells good. It's up to the top mark too. So that looks good. Alright. The seat can just come off. Let's see what's going on underneath here. So typically in the older Polarises, the air box was sitting right here. It looks like it's now up here. Take that off. Oh yeah, there's a big mouse nest in there. Yeah, let's try to take that air box out. I'm gonna put some gloves on before we do that. The actual air filter looks good. It's got the sleeve on there protecting it. But if you look in there, there's a pretty big mouse nest. So there's the mouse nest in there. So we're gonna vacuum that out first, get that out of there. And kind of go from there. That's nasty. Alright, looking clean in there now. Alright, I think what we're gonna do is just hook a battery to it See if anything turns on first. Negative to here. All right. Let's see if anything lights up. Nothing. Thought I saw lights come on. Nothing at all. Interesting. No lights, nothing clicking. Not getting power. Alright. They said ignition wasn't working, so I wonder. Oh, it's not plugged in. Well, that would be the reason. I plugged the ignition in. We're gonna spray that off. Turn this back on. See if anything happens now. Yep, just shows the time. Twist the key a bunch. You might not be getting power up to the key either. Nothing happening. Alright, that's plugged in. Those wires are going down to there. Alright, so ignition is probably having a problem. We're going to check the fuses first, make sure those are all good. Make sure we're getting power from the battery to the actual fuse box. We've got one red wire going there, one here, going to the solenoid, and one here. Let's see what's in here. 40 amp fuse. Make sure we're getting power to that. Alright, so we should have 12 volts going to this end for sure. Yep. And this end. Yep. So we're getting 12 volts there. Let's see if we're getting 12 volts here. Yep. So we're getting 12 volts. Alright. So let's see this cover. ECM relay, fan relay, EFI relay, bump lights display, bumper lights relay, wire, spare, accessories, drive, lights, unswitch, EPS. So EPS, maybe that's locked up because we're not getting power. Chassis relay. So let's see here. So what I think we're going to do is see if we're getting any power up to the ignition switch. Alright, so here's the ignition switch. You've got red, white, red, black, orange, and red, white. So we're going to check and see if each of these has 12 volts. Check the orange first. Negative. Nothing. Red, white. Nothing. Black, red, nothing. Red, white, there's 12 volts. So red, white, we're getting 12.
What's that?
Red, black, we're not getting anything. Orange, nothing. Red, white, nothing. All right. So I feel like the orange should be positive because the orange wire coming from out of here, the battery, is positive. We're only getting one positive wire on here, it's the red and white. So we're gonna take off the ignition switch and see why that's not working. It should be, when you switch this on, it should be taking power from this plug and going to the rest of them. At least for a couple of them. So that's not working at all. Let's take that switch out. Take a look in the switch here. Yeah, it's pretty corroded in there. Like a film coming off of it. Bunch of gunk. So we'll work at this for a bit. Try to get these cleaned up back to brass. Alright, we did a continuity test on the switch here, and it looks like we're getting power from the red and white wire down to the red and black. So we're following the red and black, and it looks like the red and black goes into the switch into here. So this is the left-hand switch here. It's got the on-off switch here, the override, and the lights. So we took off that connector right there, and the red and black was not making a good connection in here. The pin that was in this right here was actually stuck in here when I pulled it out. So there's no way that was making a good connection right in here. So that red and black wire is for the kill switch. So I don't think the machine can turn on unless we've got power coming from the red and black going to, I believe it's the orange, because there's an orange up here at the ignition. So I think that orange wire needs power. So what we're gonna do is hook up the wire, the red and black coming in here that has power, 12 volts, and we're gonna manually hook the wire to the orange to see if anything happens, because I think that orange one needs power in order for the electric start to work. Because when you turn the key again, the orange should be powered, and that should go to the white and red right here, and the electric start should work. So let's just see what happens. So let's just see. So we're gonna put power here, hoping we don't have a spark here. Oh, something did something. Oh, the light turned on. Huh. Oh, fuel pump. No way. Oh. Look at that. We've got power. Lights are working. Oh man. What do we have for miles on this thing? $1,532 miles. That is not bad. Full gas tank. All right. Will electric start work? Key. Nope. Electric start's not working still. Let's just see the orange wire here is getting power. We're getting 12 volts there. So when we turn the key, it should send voltage down the white and red wire right there. So as you turn that, it should send it from the orange down to the red and white. Alright, so we did a continuity test on the switch, and it looks like we are getting voltage from the orange to the white and red down there. So it is sending voltage down to the red and white, but the starter's not working. So we found the solenoid, which is right down here, and look what we have here. A white and red wire and a green wire. So that you can see up here, kind of hard to see, but it looks like, let's see if I can get in here. The red and white wire is right there. That's hooked up to the green, and the red and white's hooked up to the green on that side. So I think somebody must have switched those around. So we're gonna put this one in here and that one in there and try this again. All right, so we've got one wire hooked up to the white and red down by the solenoid. We're gonna turn the key and see if we're getting power. Let's see what happens. All right, we're getting power to the solenoid, but it's not doing anything to the electric starter. So it's not signaling the electric starter to start. So it's either the solenoid or the starter at this point causing problems. All right, the solenoid's right there. So an easy test to see if that solenoid's working is to cross the pegs here, like that. And if it works, we know that the solenoid's probably not working. If it doesn't work, it could be the starter. Just see if it cranks over here. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, no, it's not working. Oh, fired up. No way. No way. Holy. Check that out. Oh man, that is insane. She fired right up. Look at that. No way. I cannot believe that. That is awesome. Wow. So I think the solenoid is the problem, or part of the problem. We might take that off and try to clean that up a bit. It sounds really good. That was a huge surprise. Wow. Fired right up. Oh, does that feel good? I just cannot believe that thing fired right up like that. That is a small miracle. So the whole problem was the red and black wire going into the switches here on the handlebar. So if you don't have that wire sending power to here, it won't send power to the ignition and power on the whole machine. And then electric start won't work, nothing will work, nothing will have power, and the machine would not have spark either. So that's why this thing wasn't working. It's all because of that red and black wire right there. So if you guys have a similar machine that's not turning on, check and make sure that's not corroded in there and that that wire is not pulled out. Because that just made the whole machine not work. And the guy gave up on it because of that one wire. So we just got that thing fired up. So I'm thinking the solenoid has a problem. You can see how rusty that is. We're gonna take that off, clean that up, and try to get that to work. All right, we got the solenoid out. You can see just how rusty this thing is. Luckily I didn't break anything off, but those posts are extremely rusty. So how this thing works is you've got a negative wire here that's on automatically as you turn on the machine. And as you turn the key, 12 volts goes down this wire and activates a piston in here that comes off and crosses this bridge between this post and that post, and then sends 12 volts down to the starter. So if this So if that piston in there is stuck, it's never going to reach the post here and send the voltage down. So typically what happens is the piston gets stuck, or this wire is broken in between here and doesn't ever send the signal to have that piston come up. So we're going to tear apart this solenoid and just see what's going on in there. This thing is most... Ow. Just stab my finger and stab my thumb again. Alright, you can see it came apart here. There's a wire down there holding that on. That wire right there was broken on that side. This wire is still attached down here. Where is it? You can see that wire is still attached. That one's broken. And that's the red and white, so it was never sending signal down all the way. It's not rusty in there at all. You can see. But that's why that was broken. We're gonna try to fish this out. There's magnets in here. Got your O-ring. I don't think that's gonna come out of there. Probably not. Spins. And then this one. So the broken one is actually the blue wire going in. So the ground we're missing. Alright, we found a similar solenoid. We're going to try and install that. Obviously it has a different connection. So we're going to cut that and put these on there. Fortunately I don't know which is negative and positive. We're going to have to test it out. But I do know the positive peg is this one. Going down. Alright, we got the new solenoid hooked up right there. Let's see if it works here. Here we go. Oh yeah. Awesome. Alright, that worked. On to the next problem. Alright, the next problem we have to figure out is why it doesn't show drive, low, high, or neutral on the dash here. So I'm thinking it's a sensor in here. We'll just kind of play around with it a little bit and see if it breaks something free here. Let's see if it's up now. Nothing. So let's take the panel off over here. It might be right here with a sensor going into the transmission right there. That could be where that sensor is because it's right there. Oh, it looks like that's broken too. Look at that. Yeah, that's gotta be the problem. See that? That's broken. Something must have hit that and broke that off. Bet you water's right in there. Alright, so let's get this guy off of here. Plug looks perfect, nice and clean, looks good in there. So how does that come out of here? Looks like there's a C-clip holding that whole thing on. Just prying up on this a little bit while trying to wiggle it. There we go. See, it was cracked right there. So I'm guessing if we take this off, it'll be all crusty underneath there. Yeah, that's all wrecked in there. So we definitely need a new sensor. Yeah, it just got burnt up. Alright, so it looks like what happened was this little pin and spring mechanism came off. That's supposed to ride around these grooves right here. So that goes in like that. So that came off, and that's why that wasn't making contact or showing up in the dash. So, yep, that is definitely broken. 100%. I tried to fix it, but it's not staying together. Alright, we've got this machine on just for fun. We're gonna see if this thing makes contact and if the gauge works. So I'll push down right here. And let's just see if anything turns on here. Nothing so far. Alright, what we're doing is touching with the wire here, that metal to that metal. So the inside to the outside. Let's see what happens on the dash here. Looking for something to come up here. Alright, we're gonna go to the inside and outside. Oh, there's low. Look at that. There we go, there's low. Let's see if we can find high. There's reverse. There's low again. Let's see over here. Oh, there's park. There's reverse. Let's see if we can find high. There's high. So they're all working. It's just that sensor. Alright, so far we need a new shift position sensor, is what that's called. And then the new switch up here. Let's move on to the power steering. Let's see what happens here. Alright, so power steering does not work. We are going to check the fuse to power steering. So let's see here, where is power steering? EPS right there. Electronic power steering. So really the last thing we need to fix before we can ride this thing is the power steering. Obviously right now we have 0 steering, but on here, EPS, it's the 30 amp fuse. Right down here, zoom in a little bit. So we've got 30 amp fuse right here. Let's see if we're getting power to the fuse. Turn the key on. Let's just see what we get. I'm not getting anything to that. Oh, there we go. 11.17 volts. So we are getting positive power there. All right. Let's see about the other side of the fuse. I don't know why we're only getting 10.9. Got 11 going in. Oh, never mind. 10.9 going in. And we do have 10.9 coming out. Alright, so the fuse is working. Alright, underneath the battery, we got these switches off the power steering motor. So we're going to see if there's voltage going to these. Alright. See what the heck happens here. Positive. Negative. Got negative voltage going to that. Let's see about this one. Yep, positive going to that. So we have voltage going to it. And that switch. Let's see what these switches are in here. This must be the sensor right here. Two wires coming into here. Yep, positive. Oh, we are getting voltage to it. Let's see what the colors these are. So there's red and black, and that's got good power going to it, and then yellow, green, and pink. It looks like the green wire is pulled out. You can see the two prongs sticking through there, but I don't see the third one. So maybe that's the problem. All right, I can hear like a buzzing sound by the motor down here. We're just gonna hit on that with a punch and a hammer. Maybe it's just stuck a little bit. All right, let's see. Oh, no way. No way. That's working. The good old punch and the hammer. That's awesome. So now it's searing. Wow. I cannot believe that worked. Look at that. Perfect. So that's fixed. You can see all the powder that came off of it. So it must have had some corrosion on the inside. Just need to be broken free. So we have steering now. So what we can do is get everything back together here. We're gonna try riding this thing without the sensor hooked up here. I don't know if it's gonna move. I don't know if it's like a Honda where it won't go very fast without that sensor. If there's a speed limit around there, I'm not sure. All right, the whole machine's back together. Looking pretty decent. Wiped it down a little bit. Cleaned up pretty good. Got the front rack bolted on. Somewhat. So we'll see if this thing moves. Obviously we won't have all the functions with this switch being disconnected, so we won't have the lights, the 4x4 probably, or the override button, or the on-off. But everything else should work. Alright, it's running pretty good. So all the gears work, reverse works, high, low both work. I can hear that clutch squeaking a little bit. Probably just a little rusty in there. Let's see if this winch works. Alright, that works great. Alright, everything is working on it good. It goes in reverse, neutral, forward, low. Everything is working perfect. Winch is working. I want a quick check over everything to make sure everything's good before we take it for a longer ride and really test this thing out. But power steering is working good. So really, there's nothing wrong with it at this point. We just need the new sensor for the shift position down here, and then these so we can control the lights. Let's see where our oil level's at after riding it for a bit. Looks perfectly clear. Let's see what the level's at. And you can see it's perfect. So oil checks out. Alright, right here is the drain and the fill. So we're going to try to take off the fill first. That looks super rusty on there. Alright, finally got that free. Took a little bit. Let's see how tight that was on there. Holy. Hopefully there's some fluid in there. We'll find out right now. Oh yeah, just poured right out. I don't know if you guys could see that or not. So there's definitely oil in there. All Alright, we're just gonna leave that then. Alright, it seems to be running pretty good, but I don't know how old this fuel is, so let's check that. Alright, looks like somebody put some stable in it. It's a little cloudy, a little yellow, but it doesn't look that bad. So we'll just run it. Seems to be running pretty good with it. See if the coolant's still tapped off here. Yep. Looking good. So I think we're all set to go. What do you think, bud? Did we get it fixed up? Did we get the four-wheeler fixed up? Yeah. Alright, got this thing off the trailer. We're having some weird issues, so let me start this thing up for you guys. So it's actually going into limp mode. Watch this. See that? So that's not good. So to check the engine light that came on, you can see it's right there. You can press the select button until that engine light flashes. It's flashing right there. Now there's a code that comes up, 520194, and then there's a 3. So I'm going to look that up and see what that means. So here are the codes. So we've got 520194, and then the FMI is 3. So it says voltage too high in the throttle safety signal. That's interesting. So we're gonna let the battery drain for a bit and see if that fixes our problem. Got the lights on right now. We'll let that drain out because the battery was dying when it was running good. So I wonder if it's getting too much voltage. Let's just open this throttle housing here. See what's going on. Looks really rusty. These connections right here are supposed to be closed at throttle, which it is, then open when you hit the throttle. Looks like our engine light went off after letting this thing sit on for a while. So it might just be high voltage going to here. Or it could be something to do with the switch right here. Just fire it back up. Revving out now. Oh, engine light came back on. See if it goes off if I wiggle this. It's still on. It's revving out completely though. "523" is the code now. Alright, so code 523 blinking is going to be, it says either voltage too low, voltage too high, or signal fault on the gear sensor signal. So that's below the seat that we took off. So that's to be expected. So that code won't go away until we put a new sensor in there. That does not cause it to go into limp mode, which is good. So we're gonna try riding it with that code, see what happens, see if the other one pops back up. Alright, I think we found the problem. That wire is just pulled right out. Check that out. Try to get this whole switch out of here. I'm guessing it's all corroded. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. So that wire was supposed to go right to there. And that one's pulled out. Actually, both of them are. I don't know which one goes where now. We'll have to look back on camera and see. But both of those wires pulled right out of there. Probably from corrosion. So that needs to be fixed as well. It was running good for a little bit, and then it would, you know, stall and then come back on, stall, and that's definitely the problem right there. Alright, so we tried to strip these and get those back in here on the switch, but it's not soldering correctly and it's not working. But now it revs out completely. We took both these wires out. It doesn't do limp mode anymore. So I think we basically just bypassed that by taking these two wires out. We plug that back in and it seems to work good now. So we might just leave that bypass or buy a new switch for that. I think that goes down to the throttle down here. So we can look for a new switch as well. And then I found out that the brake switch was broken too. A little brown wire pulled out of there. So I'm guessing when the dealership was working on this thing, they just ripped those out because it was so rusty and corroded in there. You go ahead and order up the new switch here, and then the new shift position sensor. This was 45 bucks. That was 30 bucks for that sensor, and I'm guessing that one's gonna be another 30. So we'll have like another 120 bucks stuck into it, which isn't bad. But at least it runs good with those wires disconnected, so we can ride it for the time being. And the goal was just to get this thing running today, and we got it running and driving, which is insane. So the dealership originally said this thing was not worth saving, which I totally disagree. I think it was definitely worth saving. I think we'll throw 120 bucks into it and we'll have a really nice running machine. This one is almost done. Once we get those parts in, we'll throw those on and we'll have a nice running Sportsman 550. I think this is the newest Sportsman I've ever owned as well. So it's pretty nice with the power steering and the EFI. Not too bad for 1,200 bucks. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for the next video. And until next time, we are out.